Hi friends, today with Principal Rabb-Patterson, we're finishing up Writing Chance, and today is Tuesday, October 20th, and we're reading chapter 36. And this is Writing Chance, again by Kendall. We played exhibition out in Blanchard. Winston couldn't have had it in Fairmount Park, but I guess he didn't want to since the park wasn't on the circuit and Blanchard was. The countryside looked different from the way it had in the spring when I'd first gone out there. A lot of green had turned brown in the summer heat. That was on the way to Blanchard. Once we turned off the main road onto the club's long driveway, everything was just as green as it had been before. Looked like they didn't have to worry about their water bill or something like that. Dre drove our string of horses real slow over all those little winding roads. I wanted Chance in the whole game with me, and since this wasn't a pro match, I could keep it in her I could keep her in the game as long as she was in good shape. All the twists and turns in the road made me think about everything that had happened over the summer, but I put that out of my mind, had to focus on my game. I was playing this number 4 spot defense. We knew the team was playing the Wildcats were strong on offense. They were fast and they could shoot a ball down the field before you even knew they had it. What we needed to do was break out their chance to make goals. That meant I had to be ready for offensive drives and be able to move into position to defend our goal real fast. Once I stopped their attacks, I'd have to get the ball to Jerome, our number 3, or up to one of our other players who would try to score. I'd been talking to myself a lot. Positive self talk, that's what it's called. Winston taught me that. Put all negative thoughts aside and fill your mind with positive energy. I know, sounds like something Mr. Glover would say, right? People started coming to the club about an hour before the game. Some were tailgating, but a lot of folks just wanted to check out the horses. I looked around for Pops and Grandmom. They were sitting in the bleachers with Foster and Miss T. I recognized them by Grandmom's wide brimmed hat. There wasn't a VIP tent or anything like that, but it was nice. A bunch of people from our stables were there with Alicia, and Uncle Ronnie was there too. I had to give it to him. He had a nice looking lady on his arm. Nervous? Winston asked. I hadn't played at a club like this before. On top of that, it was hot and there wasn't really much of a breeze. We had the sprinkler system hooked up so the horses could stay cool. A little, I said. Chance looked pretty good after the ride out from Philly, but I stayed as close to her as I could before the match started. Blanchard had a really good sound system, and they were playing music before the game. This was nothing like our games in the park. Jerome joked that our horses might be too busy eating the nice grass on the polo field to play, but one look over at Magic and Chance told me that wasn't true. Our horses were ready to go. The Wildcats played at Blanchard all the time, and from the looks of their equipment and horses, they had a lot more money than us. That's their weakness, said Winston. They'll be sorry if they don't take us seriously. Jerome was like the perfect team captain, encouraging all of us to play hard. He even patted me on the back before we rode our horses onto the field with the warm up. I followed the other players and cantered Chance up and down the field, making a big sweep in front of the bleachers. I don't know who was smiling more, Pops or Grandma, but I definitely heard Uncle Ronnie yelling, "That's my nephew!" It was still hard to believe I was playing polo at Blanchard. Then the music stopped and the starting bell rang. It was time to play. Jerome won the throw in and sent the ball crashing down the field. Looked to me like his shoulder was fine. We all tore down the field in a line with equal distance between us. That's how you do it. But we weren't alone. The Wildcats were on us. Tough. I was right in the middle of it and I was totally wired. My heart was jumping out of my chest and the hair on my arms was standing on end, but I never lost my cool, man. I never lost it. I just did what I had to do. Paid attention to who was where on the field and how Chance was feeling. Chance was the key to me making a good showing. I knew that. Felt like she knew it too. She was coiled underneath me, and I don't know if it just felt like we were flowing together. Real tough. There was a race between Willie and a Wildcat player, and guess who got the ball first? Willie outgalloped the guy, then hit a long pass over to Little Keith. Little Keith worked his way through the horse traffic, and as he got closer to the goal, slowed down to take half hits. He scored. The Wildcats' mouths were just hanging open. We totally dominated them. The ball was thrown in again, and this time the Wildcats got control of it and headed for our goal. But Jerome stole it. He was bad. He knocked it over to me, and I did a back shot that sent it down the field toward the Wildcats' goal. The ball went over to the sideboards, but Willie chased it down and kept it alive. He made a sprint down the field and just overpowered the Wildcat, who was trying to protect their goal. Willie scored. We were totally on our game. The first Chuka was like that. It ended with us in the lead. "You guys are working great together," Winston yelled as we came off the field. "They don't know what hit 'em. I felt my whole face just beaming. Shoot, I probably look like Dre or somebody. I even waved at Lele. He was there talking to Jerome. Jerome had us doing just what we discussed. The Wildcats knew how good he was. They'd seen him play before, so they paid a lot of attention to him. They learned a little too late that they had to pay attention to all of us. Winston smiled up at me. You two holding up okay? He gave Chance water and patted her on her neck and shoulder. Everything good? I nodded and leaned down to whisper to Chance. You're doing great, I said. She turned her head around to look at me with one of her big brown eyes. She was sweating, but she didn't need to come out of the game yet. I rode her back out onto the field with her neck arched and her head held high. The second Chuka started, and guess who won the throw-in? Us. The Wildcats were mad now, so they were playing more aggressive. Little Keith shot the ball up to Willie, and the Wildcats were all over him, but Willie outsmarted them. He faked an offside forehand and left the ball where it was. Jerome was right there to pick it up. He worked his way through the horse traffic and exploded down the field. A Wildcat was covering him, but he couldn't hang with Jerome. Man, Jerome took it home. He did his mean forward swing that sent the ball through the goals. Wasn't nothing wrong with his shoulder. Folks from Philly were standing up in the bleachers cheering like crazy. Maybe it was the wild cheering, whooping, and hollering really that made something inside me click. That's when I caught fire. The Wildcats were expecting mostly back shots from me, so they were ready for that. They didn't know how well I could handle the ball. See, they didn't expect me to turn it before I hit it, so I could be in more control where it went. Or when I did do a back shot, they didn't expect me to hold it until Jerome or little Keith or Willie was in a better position to receive it. Put all negative thoughts aside. I kept running that through my head over and over again. Chance felt it. Her ears were standing up like they do when she's alert, and, I think mine were too. Even with the helmet on, seemed like I heard everything going on around me even before it happened. Like I knew what was coming. I don't know how else to say it. Not only did me and Chance stop the Wildcats from scoring, but we turned our attacks into offensive plays for our guys. Me and Chance, we were all over it, man. The Wildcats couldn't break through us. The Chuka ended with our team still on top, 3-0. Fantastic defense, Winston yelled. He was beaming from ear to ear, and his polo buddies were already coming over to congratulate him. Where'd you find your number 4? Somebody said. He can do it all. What an asset, somebody else said. He'd stopped the Wildcats dead in their tracks. Everybody was saying stuff like that. I gulped down some water and closed my eyes to try to calm down. It was in the third Chuka that he got me. Jerome. He was raging, man. The Wildcats won the throw-in, but little Keith and one of their guys were shouting at each other in the midfield. All of my concentration was on the game, but something must have been happening somewhere else too. The players didn't seem to be where they should be, the refs neither. Me and the number 1 Wildcat were racing down the field, and I could hear Jerome and another player thundering toward us. I got to the ball first and leaned down on my saddle to take a shot. I thought Jerome was going to keep going to receive my pass. Instead, he was heading right for me and Chance. That wasn't right. You can use your pony to bump your opponent's pony, but I wasn't his opponent. That's when I saw his face. Totally cold, man. His face was just cold. I wheeled Chance to the left so she wouldn't get hit full force. Jerome slowed down and turned to the right at the very last second and reached out and yanked me off my horse. Like I said, he was raging. I caught those dead eyes again. There was nothing in him. I fell real fast, but it felt like I was falling in slow motion. Chance turned her head, and I looked right into her big brown eyes. She watched me go down. And that was the end of chapter 35. Oh my goodness, friends, what is going to happen? Have a good evening. Bye, friends.